Imagine a room with no windows, no fans, no ventilation, and monks using smoke, cloth, and sound to make the air cleaner than the air outside. You see a Tibetan monk inside a stone chamber, the walls sweating from cold condensation, the air is heavy, motionless. A thin mist of old smoke hangs in the room, clinging to the ceiling like a veil. Anyone else would rush to open a window, but there is no window. Instead, the monk kneels, lights a bundle of dried juniper, and lets a column of pale, dry smoke rise into the stillness. The smoke doesn't thicken the air, it cleans it. It absorbs the moisture, neutralizes the smell, and begins breaking down whatever the room has been holding. In this video, you'll discover how Tibetan monks clean their air without ventilation using 3 ancient methods: antibacterial herbal smoke that purifies instead of poisoning, sacred cloth techniques that physically move stagnant air, and deep-frequency vibrations that break apart invisible accumulations the same way wind does. And this matters because the quality of air determines the quality of breath, and the quality of breath shapes the quality of mind. I'm sharing this because most people believe clean air requires technology until they see monks purify an entire hall with nothing but fire, fabric, and sound. But the most surprising part is this: their smoke doesn't fill the air, it scrubs it. When monks burn plants inside a closed room, the smoke is not meant to fill the air, it is meant to clean it. The process looks simple from the outside. A monk lights a small bundle of dried juniper, artemisia, or resin, and thin streams of pale smoke rise into the stillness of the temple. But the smoke they create is not the thick, suffocating smoke most people imagine. It is dry, light, and deliberately controlled. Every plant they burn has been chosen for a specific purpose: to kill bacteria, absorb moisture, and neutralize what the room has been holding: sweat, breath, dust, and the heaviness that accumulates in a space where many bodies gather. The first plant they use is juniper. When ignited, its needles release resins that produce a smoke sharp enough to kill airborne microbes, but gentle enough to breathe without irritation. Juniper smoke rises quickly, grabbing humidity as it climbs. The dry air of the mountains helps the smoke bind with moisture in the room, pulling it upward and out of the breathing zone. This removes the dampness that bacteria and mold depend on. The scent is crisp, almost metallic, clearing the mind the same way it clears the air. Artemisia is used when the air feels stale or when illness has passed through the temple. Its smoke carries bitter compounds that neutralize odors and suppress bacteria lingering on surfaces. Monks swirl the burning bundle in slow circles, not to spread the smoke but to direct it toward corners where stagnant air tends to sit. The smoke combs the room, lifting particles trapped near the floor and pushing them upward where the smoke can disperse them. Artemisia smoke is also known for breaking up airborne impurities, making the air feel thinner and easier to inhale. Resins are used when stronger purification is needed. Small chunks of aromatic resin are placed on hot embers, releasing dense smoke packed with antimicrobial oils. This smoke doesn't spread randomly. The monk watches how it moves. If it pools near the ceiling, he adjusts the fire. If it hangs too low, he wafts it gently with his hand. The goal is to create a current of rising smoke that drags impurities with it. Resin smoke binds with fine particles in the air, pulling them upward and reducing their concentration where people breathe. Monks also burn bitter roots that act as natural disinfectants. The smoke these roots produce is almost invisible, but its scent is sharp and medicinal. It breaks apart clusters of particles that hover in dead air pockets, making the environment lighter and clearer. The roots release compounds that settle on surfaces, creating a temporary antibacterial layer without leaving residue. The key to all of this is control. Monks never let the room fill with thick smoke. They feed the fire slowly, creating just enough to clean the air without overwhelming it. Too much smoke would suffocate the space, too little would do nothing. They read the behavior of the smoke the same way others read the wind, watching how it curves, how it rises, how it thins. The smoke's movement tells them where the air is dirty, where the humidity is hiding, and where the room is holding heaviness. When the purification is done, the air feels dry, clear, and surprisingly fresh despite the lack of any ventilation. But smoke alone cannot fully refresh a closed room. The air must move. It must be pushed, stirred, and swept so that whatever is still trapped can be removed. And for that, monks don't rely on tools. They rely on cloth. After the smoke has purified the air, the room is cleaner but still heavy. The impurities loosened by the herbs linger in pockets of stillness, corners, low ceilings, shaded edges of the hall. Monks know that if the air does not move, the room will slowly absorb those particles again. So they perform something rarely seen outside the monasteries: a physical sweeping of the air using long sacred cloths, moving the atmosphere itself as if it were water. The cloth they use is not random fabric. It is a long strip of thick, coarse material, often infused with herbal powders or lightly scented oils. When the monk picks it up, he doesn't wave it violently. He stands tall, steps into the center of the room, and begins slow pendular arcs with the cloth. Each movement pushes a wave of air outward. The cloth cuts through the stillness, creating microcurrents strong enough to lift particles from where they're trapped and drive them toward the rising smoke pathways created earlier. The motion is precise. The monk begins with a wide horizontal sweep, letting the cloth hover just above waist height. This breaks the layer of stale air that sits between the floor and chest level. Then he transitions into large semicircular movements, raising the cloth and letting it drop in smooth arcs. These arcs create small vortices that reach higher, pulling down the pockets of stagnant air near the ceiling. The cloth doesn't just move air randomly, it directs it toward the center of the room, where the smoke is already rising. If several monks are present, they form a line. Each holds a cloth and moves in synchronized rhythm, creating waves of air that travel across the hall like rolling tides. This coordinated sweeping has a powerful effect. The air begins to shift as a whole, circulating through the space even without a single window or vent. Dust lifts, humidity disperses, and the environment begins to feel lighter. What normally requires ventilation or fans is achieved with nothing but cloth, timing, and intention. Monks also use a vertical motion called the lifting stroke. With a sharp upward pull, the cloth catches dense air from the floor and pushes it up into the rising smoke. This breaks the lowest layer, the layer where breath, sweat, and heavy particles accumulate. After several lifting strokes, the room feels immediately different, as if something thick has been removed from the lungs. They move through the entire room this way, corner to corner, ensuring no pocket of air remains untouched. Every motion is deliberate. The cloth compresses and expands the air, making invisible things visible by the way the smoke shifts. The monk can tell when the air is clearing because the smoke begins to travel more freely, without pooling or sinking. When the cloth movements no longer cause sudden changes in the smoke's behavior, the air has been fully swept. This sweeping ritual does more than move air, it breaks the energetic heaviness of the room. The disciplined movement, the rhythm of the cloth, and the intention behind each swing create a sense of clarity that can be felt on the skin. Breathing becomes easier, the chest feels open, the mind becomes sharper. The simple act of moving the air transforms the entire atmosphere. But even after the smoke purifies and the cloth moves the air, something remains, subtle accumulations that are too fine to see and too light to settle. These must be broken apart, not swept. And for that, monks use a final tool, one more powerful than cloth, fire, or herbs. They use sound. Even after smoke has purified the air and cloth has set it in motion, something remains suspended, particles too small to see, too light to fall, floating clusters of dust, moisture, and residue that drift aimlessly. Monks know that these accumulations can stagnate the air again if left untouched, so they use something no physical tool can replace: vibration. Sound becomes the final force that breaks apart what the eye cannot track and what the cloth cannot sweep. The process begins with guttural chanting. A monk stands in the center of the room, feet grounded, chest open, and lets a deep, resonant tone rise from the lowest part of his throat. This sound is not melodic. It is not meant to soothe. It is vibration, dense, heavy, and sustained. The low frequency pushes through the air like a slow-moving wave, shaking the particles suspended in the room. The vibration loosens what the smoke has detached and what the cloth has lifted. The air becomes active again, stirred from within, not from movement, but from resonance. As the chanting grows deeper, you can feel the air responding. Tiny ripples travel across the room. The sound reverberates against the stone walls, creating intersecting waves that collide in the center. These waves break apart microscopic clusters of moisture and dust, forcing them to disperse instead of remaining concentrated. The air begins to thin, to lighten. The chest feels clearer with every vibration. Then the monk uses metal bowls. He strikes the rim of a large singing bowl with a padded mallet, and the impact sends a clear, ringing note across the space. Unlike chanting, whose vibration is slow and heavy, the singing bowl creates tight, concentric waves that travel outward in all directions. These waves shake the air at a higher frequency, disrupting whatever is still lingering after the chanting. It is like watching water in a pond react to stones dropped at different intervals, large waves followed by smaller ripples, each breaking apart what the other misses. The bowls are also moved around the room. A monk holds one in his hands and walks slowly, striking it lightly as he passes through corners, edges, and areas where air tends to stagnate. Each strike creates a burst of energy that travels outward, clearing invisible pockets the cloth could not reach. The metallic vibration resonates through both the air and the surfaces, preventing particles from settling again. Sometimes, several monks chant together while others strike bowls and bells. The room becomes a chamber of moving sound. Low frequencies shake the air from below. High frequencies cut through from above. The overlapping vibrations mix, collide, and scatter everything that was once suspended. In moments like this, the air feels alive, almost trembling, until finally it settles into clarity. The science behind this is simple but rarely considered. Sound waves move air. They break clusters, redistribute particles, and prevent stagnation. What monks discovered centuries ago is that sound can act as an invisible broom, sweeping through what no hand can touch. Once the sound finishes, the room is transformed. The air is dry, clean, and open. Breathing feels deeper, the body feels lighter, and the mind becomes sharper because the environment no longer pulls it down. Monks purify air through smoke, motion, and vibration, not because they lack technology, but because they understand something deeper. The quality of air shapes the quality of awareness. And once the space is clear, they use that clarity to train the mind and the breath that guides it. For monks, clean air is not a luxury. It is part of their discipline. They know that the mind cannot stay sharp in heavy air, just as a flame cannot burn in a room with no oxygen. They learned long ago that air carries more than particles. It carries energy, mood, and the residue of every breath that passes through it. So they clean it with the same intention they use to clean their minds, through heat, movement, and vibration. Their methods may look ancient, even primitive, but they work because they align with the basic laws of nature. Smoke purifies, cloth moves, sound disrupts. Together, these three forces turn a sealed stone chamber into a living space where breath flows easily and thought moves freely. The air becomes part of the practice, something shaped intentionally, not passively endured. In a world dependent on technology for every small task, the monk's approach is a reminder that the simplest elements can create clarity. You don't always need fans, filters, or machines. Sometimes you just need fire, movement, and awareness. When the air is clean, the breath becomes smoother. When the breath is smooth, the mind becomes lighter. And when the mind is light, clarity follows naturally. The monks clean their air without ventilation for the same reason they train their minds without distraction, to create an environment where focus, calm, and presence can thrive, because the space you breathe in shapes the person you become.